The meta has been constantly changing in Marvel Rivals since the mid-season patch. Characters that people thought were good have been seen to be much worse than anticipated, and some characters have completely fallen out of the meta. That's why in this video we're going to analyze the win rate change from Season 1 to the mid-season patch to showcase what heroes are doing super well and what heroes have been performing way worse in the previous patch. But if you want to get better, look no further than the Marvel Rivals Academy. We have helped so many players reach all-time highs and get better and better, with consistent weekly classes, weekly coach scrims where you're put into balanced teams and coached after every single match on your play so that you can perform better in your ranked games. And we have all types of coaches running classes from aim specialists to former pro Overwatch players and so many more talented coaches that are going to help you improve. So check it all out risk-free with 30 days of free coaching in the links down below. Now, a really interesting character is Invisible Woman, a character that has skyrocketed in pick rate and for Celestial and beyond is the most picked character in the entire game, and even with that dramatic increase in pick rate, has also increased in win rate at 0.82% in Celestial. Now that's a really big deal because a character that typically goes up in pick rate actually falls down in win rate, but this character is doing both simultaneously. A character that is showcasing that they are very powerful and picked a lot, but also winning a lot. This character is definitely meta and one of the most powerful characters in the game, and I wouldn't be surprised if this number continues to climb as we move forward, as more and more people pick up Invisible Woman, learn how she works, and gets better and better with her. And we're also seeing pro play with Invisible Woman, but I also wanted to talk about a big loser going into 1.5 as the meta has developed, a character that still is picked a ton. In fact, underneath the Celestial ranked is still the most picked character in the entire game, Cloak and Dagger, has had a dramatic fall in win rate, and in Celestial Plus has only a 45.53% win rate. And this is not the worst win rate in the world because of how high they're picked, but compared to how much they were winning before, it's a massive change. And really the nerf to the ultimate, among other nerfs to Cloak and Dagger, really hurt them and pushed them away from being the best support in the game. And based on what pros are playing right now and how much Cloak and Dagger is winning on average in ranked games, we're moving further and further away from a Cloak and Dagger meta, and I think that they are massively overpicked based on how powerful they really are, with a lot of other supports showcasing more power at the pro level and with their win rates across all ranks. I believe that this character is going to fall in pick rate more and more as time goes on, although the mid-season patch that we just got did some interesting changes to Cloak and Dagger that nerfed their self-healing while dueling and AoE healing when trying to heal teammates, but also buffed their target healing. I think this was directly in response to how much the win rate of this character has fallen, and that's why the devs decided to buff this character. But by giving them a complementary nerf as well, I believe that this character will not see substantial win rate increases, especially when we talk about the higher elos of play. But there's a ton of other support winners, and we're going to break them down in just a second, that are eating up much of the losses that Cloak and Dagger is letting go of. Notably, one of the winners is actually, surprise, surprise, RACCOON. Still a massive pick rate at 26%, but with a 1.47% increase in win rate and a massive 53.29% win rate in Celestial. That's right, a character that was already winning a ton is now winning more. Why is that the case? Well, for one, I think that Rocket is just a really good support when we're not playing triple support. We're seeing a lot of the value that a character like this can provide, backed by Winter Soldier, backed by Punisher, two characters that are doing a lot better this season than in previous season, most notably Winter Soldier, just being really powerful, able to generate ultimates really fast, whittle down enemy tanks, and get a lot of value really from Amplifier. I know Amplifier is the meme around the community, but people are understanding just how powerful it is to have a combo of ultimates that can kill through defensive ultimates, and Amplifier is one of the keys to that puzzle. Now, this is not the only support that's massively winning. Luna Snow is doing reasonably well. Loki is doing about the same, but still massively overperforming at a 51.49% win rate. But there's two supports in particular that I want to put you on because they are winning huge going into this new meta. Adam Warlock and Mantis. Adam Warlock with a 3.88% win rate increase and Mantis with a 3.54% win rate increase in Celestial and beyond. That's freaking insane increases compared to almost every other character on the roster. This increase, both of them, are higher than the decreases by Cloak and Dagger. These supports that were already reasonably high win rates before, have now skyrocketed both to above a 52%. Adam Warlock with almost a 53% win rate, and Mantis with above a 54.5% win rate. This means this character is performing absolutely incredibly right now and is massively underpicked based on how well it is performing. But there is a couple of things to consider. Number one, the trinergy between Adam Warlock, Mantis, and STARLORD is the highest winning 3-pair in the entire game across all ranks. So that automatically means that playing this trinergy is extremely powerful. Being able to resurrect all individually is also something that we're seeing as a building block in compositions in pro play. Like, it's working in ranked, it's working in pro play. Turns out good characters that also get to all resurrect individually in a team fight, it's really freaking strong. Mantis, on the other hand, is a character that is just doing incredibly well no matter where she's being slot in. A very powerful support in general, and I think that a lot of people started to sleep on Mantis because her defensive ult wasn't quite as powerful at keeping just people raw alive as it was in previous seasons, but that's not really where Mantis shines. And similar to Adam Warlock, it's about the offensive capabilities, the pressure, the playmaking. Mantis does a little bit of everything, from a very powerful CC to the ability to output tons of damage and get kills, amplifying people to get more proactive plays with damage boost, and an ultimate that really just does the job the majority of the time, winning you team fights. Very, very powerful character, and a character that is obviously winning even outside of the Adam synergy as well, so I would say don't sleep on this character, no pun intended. Now, the interesting thing about Adam Warlock specifically is that in higher elos, his pick rate has gone up by over 10%, which is the highest pick rate increase out of any character in the entire game by a lot. Like, most other characters have only gone up in pick rate by like 2% or 3%. The second most is STARLORD at 8.66%, a character that was really being held down by triple support meta, a character that didn't get a lot of value in triple support meta, now finally unleashed and activated. And of course, with Adam Warlock seeing a lot more play, it makes sense that STARLORD is seeing a lot more play right alongside him. But a crazy 10%, almost 11% pick rate increase, coupled with almost a 4% win rate increase, shows that Adam Warlock is on the rise. He's on the up and up. People are learning about this character more, unlocking this character more, watching my guide I did with Kurova more, and winning more games. Don't sleep on Adam Warlock, and honestly, if you're 3-stacking at all, I highly recommend Adam Warlock, Mantis, STARLORD. I think it's a fantastic synergy that you can play, and you can play it with an extra support. If you're playing a low resource heavy composition, you could really just run it with Mantis, Adam Warlock, and no other support, but I probably wouldn't do that unless you're playing like solo Magneto as a hypothetical. But in general, it's just a great core to any composition that you can build from, create a dive comp, create a mobility heavy comp, create a poke comp, whatever. Very, very strong. It's like an engine that is the great building block of any comp. Now, some other notable characters that I wanted to point out that all just have reasonable upticks in their win rate change comparatively to Season 1. Winter Soldier is doing quite a bit better, a 1.15% pick rate uptick, and with a massive pick rate, he has about a 50% win rate, which means the character is doing really, really good. And honestly, the ban rate for this character has went through the roof now in Celestial. Plus, he's being banned 30% of the time or more. Winter Soldier is just on the chopping block, being banned all the damn time. And I did talk about Winter Soldier buffs most likely will come down the pipeline. You can check out my video for that in the links down below. Now, something that's surprising is that the Thing has above a 20% pick rate, which is a massive pick rate, and has a 51.12% win rate, which is extremely high for a character that has such a high pick rate and a character that is new. Normally, when a character is new, it takes a long time for people to pick up that character, but the Thing is like getting results right away, being picked a lot and winning a lot right away, which is kind of just a showcase of what's to come. I'm telling you right now, the Thing might be broken, and he might actually be insanely broken. We're seeing an increase in pick rate for him in pro matches, and we're seeing him dominate ranked at a crazy fast rate compared to when he was released. I wouldn't be surprised if this character continues to climb in both pick rate and win rate. Now, we did mention STARLORD, a character that is picked a lot more and is winning a lot more, 51.75% win rate in high elo, but also GROOT is being picked a little bit more and also winning quite a bit more. GROOT is an incredibly really powerful character, the building block for a lot of top compositions in pro play right now, and I do think that Groot is one of the most rewarding tanks to learn and practice and play. He can really warp an entire lobby around him, and we're seeing just how dominant he is, having higher win rates than both Magneto and Strange, two tanks that are still doing really great and have a very high pick rate. So it's not like those tanks are bad or anything like that, but Groot has a higher carry potential when his spots are set up appropriately or when Wolverine is banned. Interestingly enough, Spider-Man did see a massive increase in pick rate, but not really an increase in win rate. Now, that alone is actually good for the character. A character that is just being played in more spots and doing just as well is actually a good sign for the character. But it's also interesting that it's not a great sign for the character. Maybe the perception of the character is not as good as the reality of the character. Like, I understand that the perception is that Spider-Man is way stronger, but the reality is he's still weak to a lot of the top tier DPS that are played, namely Bucky and Namor. So while he is perceived to be stronger, you know, is he really that much stronger than he once was? I don't know, you tell me. Like I said, Punisher is seeing an increase in pick rate slightly and also a slight increase in win rate. Punisher with the Rocket synergy is also a really good fold to characters like The Thing, and specifically characters like Groot, being able to actually break the Groot walls. That's something. Venom is seeing an increased pick rate as well, and very similar to the Spider-Man increased pick rate, and we're seeing a lot more Venom Spider-Man together, and they actually have quite a high win rate together in a pair. So we're seeing that giving Spider-Man the synergy is really important to make Spider-Man more viable in ranked play. And an interesting one is Storm, a character that is seeing quite a bit less pick rate right now at a 6.37% pick rate in higher elos, and has actually been banned a lot less despite not really becoming that much weaker. I really do think this is a combination of a lot of factors, including moving away from triple support and opening up DPS like Hela and STARLORD that have easier combat capability to Storm, and also people coming to the reality of what Storm is and what she is not. A lot of the times people just kind of decide what they think is broken and just ban it without thinking, turn off their brain and ban it every single game, and not really think about how you can combat it with your play. Storm is powerful, yes, but is not very mobile mid-air, is capable of being shot and focused down, even from tanks like Magneto at times, and it's not like Stormo is impossible to counter either. There's a lot of counters to the ultimate that are not just defensive ultimates, so really I think people are waking up to some of the gaps in Storm's play, and with other characters like Bucky getting banned more, it's opening Storms to see a lot more actual playtime in Diamond and Beyond lobbies. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about is the massive decrease in pick rate in Magneto and Strange. Characters are still being picked at a 40% pick rate. That's a massive pick rate, but before, Magneto and Strange were being picked at an almost 60 or above 60% pick rate at the beginning of season 1. So what this showcases is that there's a lot more diversity in the tanking role. Like, I'm not saying Magneto and Strange are bad. They're picked a ton and they're winning a ton, but Strange dropped almost 20% pick rate. And what did that actually get eaten up by? Well, it got eaten up by a lot of different things. Thor a little bit, Groot a little bit, Venom a little bit, and The Thing has eaten up quite a bit of pick rate. Of course, also Captain America has saw a 2% increase in pick rate and also a 1.25% increase in win rate at high elo, and is seeing overall a 52.67% win rate. The reality is Magneto and Strange are still the two most dominant tanks by quite a margin, but they're not so dominant that the other tanks aren't seeing any play at all, and I think there's actually a lot more healthy diversity in the tanking category as a whole. Tanks are being played a lot of different combinations seeing play, and a lot of them are winning and doing reasonably well. So like anything you want to play can work, even all the way up to high elo right now. But not every tank has been a winner. I did want to talk about one notable loser, and that's the Hulk. Hulk lost 5.8% pick rate and also dropped in win rate 1.91%. Still has a positive win rate overall, but seeing both a drop in pick rate and a drop in win rate is not very good compared to his previous self. But notably, previously Hulk was so strong and the synergy was so strong that he was just banned all the time. So it's notable that the character is probably within the power realm to see play now and not get banned all the time, but if you think the Hulk is unplayable or weak, I would definitely recommend you think twice. One of the things that we're seeing is that perception of a character impacts bans more than the power level of said character, and I do think that Hulk probably got overbanned even when he was dominant before, because the reality of it is no one really knew how to play Hulk well, and Hulk could be a liability even if you had an amazing Iron Man. But now, Hulk is open a lot of the times and not dominating your games, but that doesn't mean he can't in the right hands. Hulk has a very high skill ceiling, as a character that is still capable of winning and even dominating a lobby in the right hands. Also, Iron Man recently got a mid-season buff that does make playing him alongside Hulk a bit more appealing, although the buff didn't specifically buff the team up, so we might see more Iron Man pick rate alone, or maybe we'll just see them together anyways just for further amplifying the synergy between them. Now, there also are a handful of other winners I wanted to talk about really briefly. Squirrel Girl seeing slightly more pick rate and slightly more win rate. Scarlet Witch seeing slightly more pick rate and slightly more win rate. Same thing is true for Iron Fist, and same thing is true for Hawkeye. All characters that got slightly better, more pick rate and more win rate. Now, unfortunately, this isn't true for every single character. Some characters lost in both categories, and I really quickly want to talk about Wolverine, who is not being picked as much and is winning less. And it's pretty obvious why this is the case. There's a couple of core reasons. Number one, the Thing is a very played tank that I think doesn't care about Wolverine nearly as much as any other tank does, and especially Magneto plus the Thing is a very hard counter to Wolverine when played correctly. We're even seeing it in pro play, capable of icing out even the best Wolverines in the world, and this is a pretty obvious case. But also, characters like Bucky is very difficult to play Wolverine into at times. Characters like Namor that are very dominant right now is also hard to play Wolverine into. And most importantly, Invisible Woman is the most picked character in the entire game right now. Probably Wolverine's hardest counter, capable of interrupting every single movement ability about him, and with her Vortex, he can't even freaking grip an enemy. All this combined makes Wolverine a lot harder to play now than he ever has been. And while that's important to understand that Wolverine is weaker and he isn't banned quite as much as he was before, he's still being banned at above a 40% ban rate. So even with all that I said, Wolverine is still being hard targeted, and most notably, even if there are certain tanks and certain strategies that could shut down Wolverine, there are certain other characters and certain other strategies that Wolverine just shuts down. Groot, for instance, is a character that you do not even really want to select unless the Wolverine is banned on the enemy team, because a competent Wolverine will make your life miserable. So ban rate doesn't always have to do with how powerful a character is. It also could have to do with how polarizing a character is in certain matchups, how much of a rock, paper, scissors it turns the game into, and I think Wolverine is a prime example of that. Now, Moon Knight is another huge loser, seeing less pick rate and less win rate, and only has a 41.44% win rate, making him, in high elo at least, the character with the lowest win rate by a country mile. Like, it's not remotely close. A lot of people really criticize me when I put Moon Knight in the lowest tier on my tier list, a character that I think is just weak overall, especially when you get closer to the skill ceiling of the game. And a lot of people disregarded that and didn't quite understand. But I was saying that Moon Knight is, once again, a character that has really polarizing matchups. If the enemy team is playing far distance spam, triple support, dirtly ultimates, and healing each other, Moon Knight is fantastic and actually dominant. That's why he was so good in the triple support meta. But when you introduce DPS that want to take duels with you, chase you down, fight you, STARLORD, Psylocke, any of these characters, Moon Knight doesn't have the tools to fight back. And you might be saying, Mills, I outplay Psylocke every single day on Moon Knight. Well, that's just because you're way better than that Psylocke. I'm just being honest. Equal skill Moon Knight to Psylocke, the Psylocke wins every single time. Moon Knight doesn't have dueling capabilities, and he's gonna just get bodied by competent DPS consistently. But when the game slows down, when no one actively targets the Moon Knight, or when you're playing compositions that just sit there and dirtle, Moon Knight's amazing. I would actually say that when used in the right situation, Moon Knight can be phenomenal, but it's not a character that you ever want to one-trick or main, because there's too many weaknesses that competent enemies can exploit. Now, Mr. Fantastic saw a slight decrease in pick rate and a slight decrease in win rate. Honestly, the changes to Mr. Fantastic in Season 1.5 were just not the right direction for the character. The ultimate is still bad overall. The character just doesn't really play well enough to pick over other characters or other tanks, and really, I think that this character needs to be further reevaluated and buffed to be even better. He's not a throw pick by any means, and I think he's actually reasonably good into double shield compositions because he can actually cleave through shields. But honestly, I don't see why you would ever play this character over the Thing, like ever, and I really don't see this ultimate being very impactful the majority of the time. So yeah, definitely a character in needing of a buff. Now, there's two more interesting characters I wanted to talk about. Number one is Iron Man, a character that is seeing less pick rate and also massively less win rate at 3.44%. This is because the massive nerfs to Iron Man. However, recently we saw a new buff to Iron Man in the mid-season patch. You would have seen that on this channel if you press that subscribe button, which you definitely should. But that was a massive buff to Iron Man. So this data is definitely going to be outdated because Iron Man is going to be way better than he was previously, and he's way better in a way that doesn't rely on the Hulk synergy. This means at the very least Iron Man is going to be better, but how much better, this remains to be seen. But I do imagine a massive increase in pick rate as people are trying the character, but in win rate we'll have to wait and see. I do expect a pretty substantial chunk because these buffs are actually quite massive, and I wouldn't be surprised if Iron Man starts to return to how Iron Man used to be back in beta, where he was actually a pretty reasonable DPS to play. Now, the last character I wanted to talk about, which is really interesting, is Black Widow, a character that is seeing more pick rate and more win rate. A lot of people are kind of opening up to this character, and I've been seeing more Black Widow players than I ever had before. People are seeing the potential to a character like this. There's also a lot more flyers that are seeing play. There's new techs being formed with Hawkeye Black Widow using her ultimate to one-shot characters. But even with all that, the character still has only a 44.15% win rate, so still not winning a ton of games overall, but is winning a lot more than they were before, so it is something to keep track of. Now, we have only 1 month left until new Season 2 of Marvel Rivals. It's gone by incredibly fast, but what changes do you want to see? Let me know in the comments down below, and do me a solid and smash that like and subscribe so you don't miss out on all our future content. Thank you so much for coming by. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.